Have you ever opened your banking app and paused for half a second before looking at the number? That tiny moment of hesitation. That split second where your brain prepares for disappointment. Most people know that feeling. The quick mental calculation. The subtle tension in your chest. The quiet question, am I okay? And sometimes, you close the app almost immediately. Not because it's catastrophic, but because it's uncomfortable. Now imagine something different. You open your account, and instead of stress, there's calm. Instead of calculation, there's clarity. Instead of anxiety, there's space. You don't wonder if buying coffee will derail your week. You don't mentally subtract groceries from rent. You don't feel that low-level financial noise humming in the background of your mind. You just breathe. There is a specific point where this shift happens. And here's the strange part, it's not when you become a millionaire. It's not when you hit 6 figures in income. It's not when you buy a house or upgrade your car. The shift happens much earlier. Most financial advice focuses on massive goals. Build $1 million portfolio. Earn 6 figures. Retire early. Those numbers are flashy. They're aspirational. They look impressive in thumbnails and headlines. But they skip over the first real turning point. Because wealth doesn't change your life at the top. It changes your life at the threshold. And that first threshold is smaller than you think. It's $20,000. Before you dismiss that as random or underwhelming, stay with me. Because this number isn't about status. It's about stability. It's about the moment you stop surviving and start strategizing. If you've ever felt stuck financially, not broke, but fragile, then this conversation matters more than any get-rich-quick strategy ever will. And if you're someone who wants to understand how wealth actually builds, psychologically, mathematically, structurally, not just motivational slogans, make sure you subscribe and follow along. Because we're not talking hype here. We're talking mechanics. Now let's break down why this seemingly ordinary number changes everything. When most people think about building wealth, they imagine a long, straight road. Save money. Invest. Repeat. Eventually, you get rich. But that's not how it works. Wealth building isn't linear. It's layered. There are invisible barriers along the way, financial thresholds, and once you cross them, the rules of the game quietly change. $20,000 is the first major one. Below that number, money feels heavy. Every dollar requires effort. Progress feels slow. It's like pushing a massive rock uphill. You're straining, sweating, questioning if it's even worth it. You save $1,000, and it barely moves the needle. You invest, and returns feel insignificant. You budget, and it feels restrictive rather than empowering. Everything feels uphill. But when you reach around $20,000, especially if that represents 3 to 6 months of living expenses, something shifts. The rock crests the hill. Momentum begins. And the most powerful change isn't even in your account balance. It's in your brain. When you don't have savings, your mind operates in scarcity mode. Every financial decision is filtered through survival. You take the job you don't like because you can't afford to wait. You tolerate situations you hate because leaving feels risky. You avoid asking for more because stability feels fragile. This isn't about mindset. It's neurological. Scarcity narrows cognitive bandwidth. Research in behavioral economics has shown that financial stress consumes mental resources. When you're worried about money, your brain prioritizes short-term safety over long-term growth. You can't plan expansion while you're focused on protection. But once you build a meaningful buffer, around $20,000 for many people, you create breathing room. And breathing room changes perception. You stop asking, How do I make it to next month? You start asking, how do I multiply what I have? You stop reacting to emergencies. You start identifying opportunities. Unexpected car repair, inconvenience, temporary income dip, manageable, new opportunity requiring upfront investment, considerable. That shift from reactive to proactive thinking is subtle, but it compounds just like money does. And here's the part most people never realize. This threshold separates two different financial identities. Below it, you are financially fragile. Above it, you are financially stable. Fragile means one surprise can knock you down. Stable means surprises don't control you. And once control shifts back to you, the game changes. You negotiate differently. You invest differently. You spend differently. You think differently. It's not about being rich. It's about no longer being vulnerable. That's why $20,000 matters. Not because it's glamorous. Not because it's impressive. But because it's the first moment money starts working with you instead of against you. And everything after that builds faster. Up until this point, everything has felt heavy. You save. You invest. You wait. And the progress looks small. That's the frustrating part about starting from zero. The first few $1,000s feel like pushing against gravity. A 10% return on $2,000 is $200. Technically good. Emotionally underwhelming. It doesn't feel transformative. But once you approach $20,000, the math starts behaving differently. Let's break it down simply. If you invest $1,000 per month and earn an average annual return of 8%, it takes roughly a year and a half to build your first $20,000. That period requires discipline, consistency, delayed gratification. It's not flashy. It's not viral. It's repetitive. And most people stop before they see momentum. But here's what changes after that first milestone. Your second $20,000 does not take the same amount of time. Why? Because now your money is helping you. You're no longer building with one engine. You're building with two, your contributions and your returns. Let's say that $20,000 earns 8% in a year. That's $1,600 generated without additional effort. Your monthly investments continue, but now growth is compounding on growth. Your effort stays constant. Your timeline compresses. And this compression continues. As your balance grows, returns become meaningful enough to feel tangible. Instead of celebrating small percentage wins, you start seeing real dollar amounts accumulate. This is the moment compound interest stops being a textbook concept and becomes personal. And here's something subtle but powerful. When returns become visible, motivation increases. You start checking your portfolio not with anxiety, but with curiosity. You become more patient, more strategic, less reactive to short-term noise. Because now you can see the machine working. Fast forward further. At higher portfolio levels, let's say $200,000 or $400,000, the numbers become almost surreal. The same $20,000 that once took nearly 2 years of saving can be generated by market growth alone in a matter of months. The work didn't change. The scale did. This is why the first $20,000 feels impossible, but every milestone after it gets progressively easier. It's not because you suddenly become smarter. It's because you're no longer relying solely on labor. You've built leverage. And leverage is the dividing line between working for money and having money work for you. But here's what most people misunderstand. There is no secret investment available only to the wealthy at this level. No hidden hedge fund. No exclusive access required. The strategy remains simple: diversified investments, consistency, long-term thinking. The difference is volume. 10% on $1,000 is a nice dinner. 10% on $20,000 is momentum. 10% on $200,000 is lifestyle impact. Same percentage, different gravity. And once you experience that acceleration, your relationship with time changes. You stop chasing quick wins. You start protecting compounding. Because you understand something most people don't. The real power isn't in making money. It's in keeping it long enough for math to multiply it. Now here's the part that matters even more than compounding. Saving $20,000 doesn't just change your account balance. It changes who you are. Think about what it takes to reach that number from zero. Unless your income is unusually high, this requires intentional living. You track expenses. You resist impulse purchases. You prioritize long-term stability over short-term comfort. You delay gratification. And that might sound cliché, but it's not trivial. Because when you consistently choose future security over immediate pleasure, you prove something powerful to yourself. You are in control. Money no longer dictates your behavior. You dictate money's direction. That internal shift is massive. Before reaching stability, purchases often carry emotional weight. Small expenses trigger doubt. You negotiate with yourself over minor indulgences. After building a foundation, the noise quiets. Not because spending doesn't matter, but because you've demonstrated discipline where it counts. And there's another change. You stop seeing only threats. You start seeing opportunities. When living paycheck to paycheck, surprises feel dangerous. A repair bill. A rent increase. A medical expense. Each one feels destabilizing. But with reserves, those same events become manageable. They don't control your month. They don't dictate your mood. Even more importantly, opportunities that once seemed unreachable become viable. A course that improves your skills. A conference that expands your network. A small investment in something promising. A temporary risk that could yield growth. You can consider them rationally instead of dismissing them immediately. This is what people mean, often vaguely, when they say money gives you options. It's not mystical. It's structural. Options reduce fear. Reduced fear improves decision quality. Better decisions compound over time. And here's something rarely discussed. Once you build this buffer, you begin focusing less on small financial tweaks and more on large structural decisions. You stop obsessing over saving $2 on groceries. You start optimizing housing costs. You negotiate income. You evaluate major purchases through opportunity cost. Instead of asking, "Can I afford the monthly payment?" you ask, "What is this costing my future?" That question alone separates fragile finances from strategic finances. And that's the deeper reason $20,000 matters. It's not wealth. It's stability plus leverage plus identity. It's the moment you move from reacting to life to designing it. There's a level of financial stability where something subtle but powerful happens. You stop being trapped. When you live paycheck to paycheck, your job isn't just a job. It's oxygen. Losing it feels like suffocating. That pressure shapes how you behave more than you realize. You tolerate poor leadership. You accept underpayment. You avoid difficult conversations. You stay silent when you should negotiate. Not because you lack skill, but because you lack margin. Without savings, every risk feels existential. But when you have around $20,000 saved, especially if it covers several months of expenses, you gain what I call walking away money. It doesn't mean you plan to quit impulsively. It means you could. That difference changes everything. When you negotiate a raise, you're not desperate. When you push back on unreasonable demands, you're not terrified. When you explore new roles, you're not rushed. Confidence increases, not artificially, but structurally. You no longer operate from fear of loss. You operate from clarity of value. And here's the part that surprises people. Often, you never actually use your walking away money. You don't need to quit. Because just knowing you can changes how you show up. You speak differently. You carry yourself differently. You make decisions with long-term thinking. Managers notice. Colleagues notice. Opportunities expand. Your earning potential increases, which accelerates your investing, which strengthens your leverage. It becomes a positive feedback loop. This is how modest financial stability quietly transforms into career acceleration. Not through luck. Through positioning. Now here's where many people sabotage themselves. They hit $20,000. They feel the relief. They feel the confidence. And then they celebrate by upgrading everything. New car. Bigger apartment. Expensive vacation. Lifestyle expansion. But here's the hard truth. That $20,000 is not a reward. It's a foundation. Because once you understand opportunity cost, your perspective changes permanently. Take a $30,000 car. Most people ask, can I afford the monthly payment? But the better question is, what could this become if invested? At a long-term average market return, that same $30,000 could multiply dramatically over 20 years. The true cost of the purchase isn't just the sticker price. It's the future growth you sacrificed. And here's the irony. The person driving the brand new vehicle may look successful. The person driving the reliable used car may actually be building freedom. One feels wealthy. The other becomes wealthy. Once you cross the stability threshold, big decisions start getting filtered differently. Housing choices. Transportation. Subscriptions. Recurring expenses. You stop obsessing over small daily purchases and start optimizing structural costs. Not in a restrictive way, but in an intentional way. You begin asking, does this expense support the life I'm building? Or is it delaying the life I want? And something surprising happens. You often realize you don't actually want half the upgrades you once thought were necessary. The bigger apartment? Nice, but not essential. The status symbol? Appealing, but temporary. The constant consumption? Stimulating, but shallow. Clarity replaces impulse. And that clarity compounds just like money does. Let's be clear. $20,000 won't make you rich. It won't guarantee luxury. It won't eliminate all financial stress. But it will do something far more important. It will move you from fragile to stable. From reactive to strategic. From surviving to designing. It is the first domino in a chain that can eventually lead to real wealth, not just in numbers, but in options. Because once you gain stability, you gain leverage. Once you gain leverage, you gain confidence. Once you gain confidence, you make better decisions. And better decisions, repeated over years, create outcomes that look like luck from the outside. If you're below that number right now, don't feel discouraged. Feel focused. The first milestone is always the hardest. After that, momentum begins to build quietly beneath the surface. And if you've already crossed it, protect it. Grow it. Let time and discipline do what impatience never can. Your future self is being shaped by what you choose today. If this perspective shifted how you see money, even slightly, subscribe for more conversations like this. Share it with someone who's still stuck thinking wealth starts at $1 million. Because sometimes the most powerful turning point in your financial life isn't dramatic. It's deliberate. And it starts with 20,000.